Now, here you can see, oh, it's not a puff adder at all. Okay, can you see this kind of flattened thing that goes across the road here? And into the bush there. I have driven over it, obviously, once. And our puff adder moves with what we call reticulated motion. So it moves in a straight line. It doesn't sort of curve and slither like a normal snake. It can do that if it wants to, but normally it just kind of moves along its ribs, moving like a millipede's legs, and that's how it moves. But this is not a snake. And the reason I know that, and you probably won't be able to see it from there, is that there are feet marks here. You can see them. So it was in fact probably a very large monitor lizard, a tree or rock monitor. They are the same species, and that's what went walking across the road here, going that way, probably into this tree. He's probably got a nest there, or perhaps further along even. Right, let's continue. So I think what we're going to do, everyone, is we're going to go up to Buffelshoek Dam, at least to Sydney's Dam again. Just check that those other elephants haven't popped out somewhere near there. We'll go via Gallagher shortcut and past the Gallagher waterhole at the same on our way. And then we're going to head off to the east and see if we can't just maybe pick up some lucky tracks from the male leopard that we were following earlier. And we'll keep an ear out on the radio for anything from the wild dogs. That is going to be our plan from now. We'll hopefully find something along the way. Got two extremely quiet drives now. Right, while we're looking for something, let's go across to Steph and see what he's got.
Welcome back to the leopard track, or the tracking exercise myself and Andrew are involved in. We're just busy snaking our way through the bush here and really just trying to pick up on any sign or track of this male leopard. I haven't seen a single thing from when we last left you. And we had to leave that area where we were showing you the Carmine Beta. It was quite low right in the Milwaukee drainage line, a lot of big trees around. And it wasn't doing our signal any good. So we left there. We are now very close to Cheetah Cut Line again, and we are just busy doing parallel roads basically through this area. And this is one of the prettier of the view sites. Actually, see, I'm going to show you something now. It's raining over Acorn Hook, and this year for some reason Acorn Hook has got the most amount of rain of the area. Every time it rains here, Acorn Hook gets the lion's share. Now, basically where this branch is pointing from this tree is a mountain, and you can see the mountain is shadowed by that deluge that's happening over there. That's what we call a cloudburst here in Africa. There's the edge of it on the one side, the mountain coming out, and there is the mountain on the other side. So quite a localized thunder shower. Right at the rain is a village called Acorn Hook, and it seems to get the lion's share of the rain at the moment. It really does. Now, coming up on the right out of the screen there is Maripskop. That's the tallest peak of the Drakensberg in this particular area. It's not the tallest peak in the Drakensberg. That belongs to Montesources, but it is a very high peak. And basically our version of Table Mountain, the Hoedspruit version of Table Mountain, and is home to about 2,000 different species of plant, which I found out the other day was absolutely incredible, considering where we are now within sight of that mountain has about a quarter of that only. And that's mainly because we sit in the rain shadow of the Lebombos, and we don't get a lot of rain. We do get a fair amount, but not nearly as much as what they get on that escarpment. That is a plateau. It's the edge of a plateau, or it's called an escarpment. Above it, it just gets higher and higher. It's not a mountain range that has a low point on the other side. That goes up and then just gets higher. Right here, we're sitting at about 400 meters or 400 yards above sea level, roughly. Up there, where Johannesburg is, sits at 1,800 meters, so a mile up in the sky. And they also get a lot more rain than what we do out here. Clouds are pulling in. They're definitely not getting thicker or lower, and I actually don't think that they are covering more of the sky. They seem to be moving, but they're burning off as they're coming overhead, which is characteristic of this area. Quite honest with you, I don't like getting cold whatsoever. So for me, sunlight and heat and summer are it. That's what I like. I don't enjoy cold weather at all. Oh, there is a water bug standing under the tree. While we're looking at this water buck busy chewing her cud, Kiki, who's only 9 years old, has just said to me that she's missed school today because there was too much snow. And do school kids in South Africa miss school? Kiki, wow, what a good question, you know. Yes, I have missed school because of flooding once in my life, and that was only because a massive tree was blown over my driveway. Our schools are not closed here because of weather. We don't have a lot of snow in this country. We don't have a lot of rain. We don't have a lot of tornadoes or any natural event. We don't have volcanoes, earthquakes, hurricanes, none of that sort of thing. So we're blessed in that. Now we've got a very temperate climate. Doesn't get too cold in winter. To be honest with you, I have touched snow only once in my life, and I actually can't remember it. It was so young, I've only actually seen a photograph of me touching some snow. I can't remember the actual event. So that was the last time I touched snow. And although I have lived through a flood in the year 2000 in this area, it was bad. Property was lost. I ended up waking up with my room in the water, with it just a few inches short of where I was lying on my bed. But it wasn't. That was once in all my years out here. So no is my answer to your question in a nutshell there, Kiki. School is not missed because of snow or any other weather effect here. Now that waterbuck's probably been in that area underneath that tree. It's on the eastern side of the tree, so it would have been in the shade for the day. And I have seen so many antelope this year, more so than I've ever remembered seeing before, standing with their head on the eastern side of a tree this time of the afternoon, with their head right next to the bark. I've seen impala do it, I've seen waterbuck do it, I've seen kudu doing it, and they do it because that's the deepest shade during the heat of the day. And with so many trees without leaves, or at least with sparse leaf cover and with sparse grass cover, they need to get out of the sun to avoid exposure and heat stroke. And especially when you're covered in a mass of hair like that waterbuck is, you definitely need to keep yourself cool. All right, so we're going to carry on going. We're going to carry on going down this road. While I've been stopping here, I've been listening to the bush all around us, and there's definitely no sign that I can hear of any disturbance of this leopard. So he's either out of this area or hasn't gotten moving just yet from wherever he's decided to lie up during the heat of the day. So we're going to carry on going, stopping periodically to listen to the bush around us, and hopefully before the end of the show we can actually show you this tom we're investing so much energy into. I have a slight problem with my radio. It seems to have gone deathly silent in my ear, which for one is fantastic, but for two does usually signify a problem. Alright, there we go. Jerry's back. I can hear you again. Seems like we just needed to get over a bump. James Rich Richard on Twitter has just asked me a question I've never had before. Does the waterbuck coat repel a tsetse fly? What a good question. I know that the skin of a waterbuck is filled with sebaceous glands that exude a lot of oil. That then goes onto the fur of the waterbuck and is water repellent, highly water repellent. It also has a funny smell. The gland itself has a funny smell, or at least by the time it gets onto the fur and stays there for a while, it has a funny smell. As to will it repel a tsetse fly, the hair or the fur on a waterbuck is very thick, and I think that would help. It's also quite difficult to get through and get under because of this oil. As to whether or not the oil would repel a fly, I'm not too sure. I don't think so. I've never read anything about it. As to the combination of fur and oil and thickness, potentially, yes. It's a good question. I'd say definitely better than me, for instance. I don't repel tsetse flies at all. So absolutely plausible. Nice question. Good. The brain juice is flowing. Alright, now we've come into a part of the reserve that's just been hammered by elephant. You have these areas that from time to time do look like they get elephant attention more so than others. And you'll notice that around me while we're busy driving, you'll see a fair amount of trees that are just pushed over, and elephants definitely are one of those animals that terraform or change the habitat that they live in quite substantially. And it is a sense of, well, it is the cause of huge debate as to whether or not it's beneficial or not. It's the debate that's been raging for absolute years as to whether or not they know what they're doing, whether or not we're seeing a natural cycle of things. Don't forget that there is no way that we reach a climax point in Africa. It's always it's a dynamic equilibrium. Things are constantly changing. There's no goal post or goal point or end point to reach, and so it doesn't regress and then get better and regress and get better. It always just carries on. So we don't really know whether or not what we're seeing is just this particular process carrying on with elephants in the bush around them, or whether it truly is too many elephants. We don't really know, or at least I don't. In New Hampshire has answered a question that I pitched to everyone a little bit earlier on gazelles and antelope. And I'm going to see if I can recite this. Once again, my very holy memory banks may need to be updated, but all gazelles are antelope. Not all antelope are gazelles, is as far as I get it. And I just have to say thank you for that. Now, obviously, if all gazelles are antelope, that would mean that gazelles are a genus or a couple of genuses of antelope, and they would share certain characteristics with one another, one of them being the fact that they are part of the Bovidae family. So there's a whole bunch of terminology inside there to keep you busy flying your fingers over the keyboard, I'm sure, to find out exactly what I'm talking about. But nonetheless, I just have to say thank you very, very much for that contribution. It's always nice to share knowledge with one another, and I'll be the first one to say that I need to learn as much as what you, or my thirst for knowledge is as much as your thirst for knowledge, and I really enjoy sharing everyone's access to knowledge and interests on the show. Don't forget, you can comment on what you see. You don't have to always ask me questions. You can just make a comment, and we can chat about it as well. We can even pick a theme for the day, or if you just want to pick something that interests you, you're welcome. I'll discuss it in as much detail as I'm able to, and with my reference books piled next to me. Andrew will try and show you. That is a box of books. You can see what I carry around there with me. Many, including my insect Bible. So, I am able to answer some questions, ones that I don't really know. Right, now we're coming back out onto Cheetah Cutline. Not onto Cheetah Cutline, onto Gowrie Main, and then we'll be going back up to Cheetah Cutline again. But this time I think Andrew's going to be ready to murder me from all the repetition of it. Tom in Dallas has just commented on me using names for places like Buffels Hoek Dam and Acorn Hoek. What does hook mean? Hoek, literally translated from Afrikaans, is corner. So it would be Acorn Corner and Buffel or Buffalo Corner. That is the translation of the word hook. I hope that helps. The Acorn Hoek and Buffels Hoek are names of places, probably given to the name of the portion of land as it was described on the original prospectus chart out here. A lot of the names of places out here are given as reference to the name of the farm or a name of the portion of land as it was described on its prospectus chart, or the chart that was handed in or designed. I don't know how they do it when land surveyors come out here, cut up land into portions and allocated a code, or a farm at least a code. Very interesting for me when you look back at old charts about settlers in an area, because it's very different, obviously, for very different people. The African people had their areas and their names for places and their farms, for lack of a better word, and when the white settlers came into this area, it was exactly the same. They cut the place up again and named it a whole bunch of different things, and that sparked off a whole bunch of wars and a whole bunch of nasty things that followed, as I'm sure it would have done in almost every country on earth to some degree or another. But once you go back, and once the nastiness is over and you can go back and have a look at these things in history, it always interests me, like Lion Kill Stream and Buffalo Corner and Acorn Corner. Where do these things come from? Like, who was the person who had the experience in that place? Why did he decide to name that particular place that? I fantasize about that. Daydreaming. Obviously not while I'm on air. Andrew is daydreaming and I'm daydreaming around here. James has got a very strange looking antelope to show you.
So we were just driving down the road here and we saw two adults, kudu, just behind us, and we thought, well, we've kind of seen them, so we'll carry on. And then just down the road, I think the other two were going for a drink at the Gallagher waterhole, and there we found, or here we found, a little kudu calf. Now you can see it lying down in the grass with its ears kind of slightly flattened, but ears almost adult-sized already, trying desperately to figure out if we can see it or not. There's another one just to the right of that one, and I think those two kudu cows have left their youngsters here so that they can go and have a drink. Now, what's very interesting to me about this is that this is what animals that can move to water will do. They leave their calves in cover like this. I mean, these are not particularly well covered, but they leave them in an area like this, away from the water, because they know that predators, if they're looking to hunt at this time of the day, will hang around water. Certainly we've seen around that Gallagher waterhole plenty in the way of lions and leopards in the last little while, and so they don't want to take these young kudu towards there. The kudu, of course, youngsters like this do not need to drink water. They'll get all of their moisture from the milk that they're drinking. So that's why this little one is here, just wondering where its friend's gone. And it's the same with sable, eland, roan antelope, I think probably hartebeest and tsessebe as well. They leave their youngsters away from the water. And so the advent of artificial water points all over the Kruger Park and the Sabi Sands and places like that has meant that the ability or the space available for animals like this to leave their calves away from water is obviously much less. And you can see the little horns. Can you see the horns starting to erupt on both sides of the head there? So this is a young male. Little kudu trotting off. Oh, so nervous. Okay, let's leave them. They're a bit nervous. Isn't that lovely? Fascinating to see. I don't want to frighten them too much, so let's just quickly get past them. They're obviously quite scared. That was really cool. You don't see that very often. And people often ask, well, I mean, sometimes I have been asked, where are the kudu youngsters? All right, so we're heading up Gallagher shortcut at the moment, trying to just go and see if there's any action happening at Sydney's Dam. I'm going to get an update on the radio about those dogs as soon as we get there, and then we're going to head off towards the east. But there just doesn't seem to be a great deal happening out here at the moment. We need Jamie to come and find us all the animals again. Anyway, we'll see what happens. This is the area where the old hyena den used to be, or the Gallagher shortcut hyena den. And Andrew went there, I think it was yesterday evening, and he said that it's really stank. And I find that amazing. I mean, the new one really stank. And I don't really understand that, because the old hyena den, I've never been to a hyena den that really smells bad. And so I'm really interested that it did smell. And I've always been surprised at how little they smell, and how normally they smell of nothing at all. So I don't know if they're going to attract extra attention by having a smelly home, but that certainly might mean that they're about to move out of that den and go to another one. Right, we're coming up onto the northern side now of the reserve, back towards the dam. The clouds are building and we're hearing quite a lot of thunder. I saw some lightning, so maybe we'll get something of a rain, but you know, it always starts like this and then it kind of dissipates. There's a huge bird there, Brian. You see it there? There. Flying away, naturally. Flying away behind a tree. I think it's actually landed in that tree there. There, massive bird. Just try and get into a position where we can see it. Not really. It's in that sort of, there's a tree around there, it's in there, but it seemed to come up off the ground. I wonder if it wasn't on this termite mound. Maybe eating termites. Maybe a steppe eagle eating termites. They will certainly be looking to capitalize on any termite eating. Oh, there's another one. Ooh, if I move, it's going to fly. Oh, no. That's not a steppe eagle. I don't know what those are. I think, well, they're definitely eagles. Maybe African hawk eagles. They normally occur in pairs. What a pity they decided not to hang around. Very unkind of them. Right, there are some more elephant tracks along here, so that's good news. Let's drive a little bit quicker. Try and leave the gearbox in the car. That's normally a good idea. And people often ask us why it is that we don't have automatic transmission on these vehicles. And it's because we just need that extra control. Hello, Micah in the Netherlands again. You want to know about when the swallows are going to leave from here and go north. I think it'll probably be sort of around the end of March, and you want to know what signs there will be. The signs that I know of is that they will start to gather in groups. They'll start to fly in larger and larger groups just before they set off, and then they'll head off back to you. It takes about 6 weeks for them to get to you. That's not, I mean, that's quite a long time, but it is an enormously long distance. Here are some impala and some giraffe. Hooray, Brian. Great action at the giraffe. 2 little impala here, or one ewe and a lamb. Hello, impalas. It's quite nice to see. Finally, a heartbeat. And here comes some giraffe just out of the side there. There we go. We'll try and get closer to them. Earlier, Steffi was talking to you about the late-born impala, and could that be a late-born impala? No, I don't think so. I think that's a pretty standard issue. But the late-born impala are a fascinating thing. Now, I'm going to stop right here, where we're hidden amongst the trees, and hope they don't worry too much about us. Big bull at the back, youngster, well, sort of in the foreground, and then beautiful-looking cow. Although that might look like a family, it isn't a family, because a giraffe don't really occur in families. The cow and the calf will obviously spend all of their time together, and the big bull will try and find other cows to be around. Maybe she's coming into estrus again. Maybe that's why he's attending to her. And Pamela, you were saying, well, there were no animals around. Well, we've seen giraffe now, we've seen some elephants, we've seen some impala, we've seen some kudu, we've seen some waterbuck, duiker, steenbok. And I can hear some elephants pushing over a tree there. She is just stunning. Her cheeks full of food, she's chewing with her mouth open, which of course indicates a lack of breeding on her part. See how cunningly I've hidden us behind this tree, Brian. It's very cunning, isn't it?
Very well camouflaged.
Yep. So camouflaged that you can't get a clear shot. And there's the little calf. And we've been watching that one growing up. I recognize this bunch. I think that one is probably now, I think it was born in probably very early October. So let's call its birthday the 1st of October, if this is the little bull that I'm thinking of, unless it's not that one, but I think it is. And so that would put it at October, November, December, January, almost 5 months old. Still got those ridiculous looking tufts on the top of his horns. But you can see he's well weaned. He's chewing his cud with his little paint brushes on the top of his head. Hello, Tony in London. You're obviously an ornithologist, and you're obviously quite clued up because you want to know if red-billed and yellow-billed oxpeckers are found together often. They are in some areas. If you go a little bit north of here to sort of around the Palabora region, so about 120 kilometers to the north of this area, you will absolutely see you'll see them mixed. And then if you go further north of that, the red-billed start to be replaced by the yellow-billed. Down here, it's the opposite. It's far more red-billed than it is yellow-billed, but we do get yellow-billed. But absolutely, they're very happy to share a habitat with each other. They do tend to replace each other, though, the further north or south that you go. All right, let's sneak a little bit forward. See if we can't get another look at them. Hello, Gracie. You want to know if I missed you? Absolutely, I missed you, Gracie. You say you've been very sick, and that's why you haven't been talking to us for the last few days. Well, Gracie, I hope very much that you're feeling much better now. And you say that Scott last said to you that he could have a tea party in the Arathusa airstrip hut with Safari James. Now, for those of you who don't know, Safari James is a rather questionable character made by me out of mud from Buffelshoek Dam, and he is Gracie's favourite. Gracie, if Safari James is still here when you get here, then absolutely we can have some tea in the airstrip. But I just have a feeling, Gracie, that you're going to see Safari James before you come to Africa. I don't know why I have that feeling, but I just do. Now, Fluffy G, we've had some wonderful YouTube and Twitter names today. Fluffy G, Fluffy Koala Bear, various others. Fluffy G, you want to know which giraffe subspecies this is. This of the, 9 or 11, it's difficult to tell what the biologists are agreeing or disagreeing with at the moment. This is the southern giraffe, which is an easy one to remember, of course, because we're in South Africa. So this is the southern giraffe. Now, it is raining in Hoedspruit. I can see that from here. See that? Amazing rain there, falling in Hoedspruit. So Steph's wife and child will be receiving rain gratefully, no doubt. I just wish it would come here. But it seems not to want to at this stage, which is sad. Anyway. Oh. I see, Mr. Moustache, you've obviously left Iceland and gone home to Michigan. I imagine the temperature is probably roughly the same, though. You want to know if giraffe get neck ache, or if I think giraffes get neck ache. It's actually quite an interesting question. I don't think they do, no. I think they're perfectly designed. And I think because they don't sit in front of computer screens or drive cars all day, they're constantly sort of doing exactly what they evolved to do. I think you'll find that their necks are loose and supple, and possibly until the day they die. And so we only get our aches and pains because we do things, we sit all day and we do strange things that we were never designed to do. And we play American football, yay, Denver Broncos. We play rugby or strange things like that our bodies simply were not designed to do, and that's where our aches and pains come from. Also, the kind of skeletal changes, or not changes, the skeletal abnormalities that human beings have, you don't see the same variation in animals. I think it's because those kinds of sort of abnormalities result in animals not surviving, and so they get bred out of the population, whereas a human being who has a gammy back or a club foot, for example, is not actually that. It's his survival or her survival or an ability to breed is not actually reduced by having a club foot. So something like that, which is genetic, will perpetuate in the population. And in the animal kingdom, that's very different. And I'm pretty sure, therefore, the aches and pains that come with skeletal abnormalities don't occur as much in the animal kingdom as they would in the human. You can see this little giraffe now very happily eating ziziphus, buffalo thorn trees. Mother's milk is not sufficient anymore. And you may just have been able to hear the dim rolling of thunder. Isn't he lovely? There are some elephants just through there, but I can't go in there, of course, because we're on the northern edge of where we can go. Look at that tongue. Beautiful blue tongue. Now, nice question here. And the Latin name, of course, of a giraffe is Giraffa cameloleopardus. Now, Dean, you're in New Hampshire, and you want to know whether, because of that Latin name, they are related to camels. They are not related to camels in the slightest, Dean. The name cameloleopardus does absolutely come from camel, and leopard means looks like a leopard. So leopardus looks like a leopard and a camel mixed together, and that's where the specific name, part of the Latin name comes from. They're not related to camels in the slightest. They only have one other extant member of their family, and that is the okapi, which is a very strange looking creature that comes from the Central African rainforests. So very nice question, but they don't actually resemble, or they certainly are not related to camels in the slightest. I don't know what is related to camels. Ooh, right, okay, everybody, there's a leopard at the Djuma Pan. We're going to drive there at an incredible speed. Rusty is going to be put through her paces. I'm not sure if Brian will be on the back by the time we get there. We hope so. I will be either. Right, we need to... Where am I going? Hang on, sorry, I'm going the wrong way. We need to take the road down here. Dust. Bye-bye, sorry. So there's a leopard at the Djuma Dam. If you want to see it, look at the Djuma Dam now. Now, please pay attention to me very carefully. If the Zoomy who's watching it can please get a little piece of the horizon, that would be wonderful. And just try and find out which direction it's going. Left of your picture is north, right of your picture is south, straight away from the picture is east, and towards, or the camera is west. Okay, you got that. Left of the picture north, right of the picture south, away from the camera is east, and towards the camp behind the camera is west. Here we go. Still at the pan. I'm getting updates from Final Control as we speak. Looks like it's Karula. Not sure what she's doing there. Probably just having a drink. Thirsty work being a mum. You'll excuse me not looking at you. I just do want to get there quite quickly. We're probably about 5 minutes out at this speed. Maybe 7. I hope she's very thirsty. Oh, there's also apparently a male leopard near Gallagher Shortcut. Stations, my radio has been down. Reports of male leopard around Gallagher Shortcut. Please can I have an update on that?
One I think speak to Funnel. It's Karula, it's not my daughter, it's Karula.
Okay, copy. What's the position?
Where are you from?
I'm on I'm on Sandy Patch. Text. Okay, it sounds like it's just Karula. I'm not sure.
Somebody said.
Not sure.
Yeah, it's Karula. She's just put Zamachi and the other.
Anything smaller than them, they also get preyed upon themselves. Have a look. There's a sentry, obviously, in the entrance to the den. They do cooperative breeding, very similar to a lot of birds around, in that only an alpha pair, alpha male and female, will have babies. The rest are made up of adolescents and sub-adults. And as soon as those adolescents and sub-adults mature, they go off to start their own territories adjacent to, and in some instances a little distance away from, their natal territories. They defend their territories against other clans, I suppose you'd say it. What would you call a mongoose? What's a collection of mongoose?
Maybe a gang. I know
a gang.
Meerkat's a gang.
Meerkats are gang. That's what Andrew says. Meerkats are gang. Be interesting to know what a collective noun is for a group of mongoose. I'm sure I've known it at some point in my life. I can't absolutely tell you what it is now. You're welcome to send that piece of information through and I'll share it with everyone. But have a look. Very inquisitive. And quite bold, actually. I mean, we're sitting in a vehicle many thousands of times bigger than what they are. And they're not showing the least bit of fear. But I know James is wanting you back with him at the moment, so I think let's quickly cross over to James so he can share what he has. So James is still having these gremlins cutting in. I'm sure he'll sort them out in a little bit. So for now, you're unfortunately stuck with myself and Andrew and what seems to be there we go. I was just about to say an empty termite mound. James has got his picture back up and running. Later.
Look how lucky we are. Look at that there. There's Karula, it would seem, and there's a male just the other side there. He's gone into the dam wall there, and we think that was Tingana. So we're right here at the Djuma Dam. Just going to move forward. I think this is Karula, is it? Yeah, it's Karula. Isn't that fantastic? So you've seen her twice today. She's quite far from where at least Steph saw her, probably about 3 kilometers. Or 2 kilometers as the crow flies. Marking territory, looking very healthy, as Steph said, which is wonderful. And you can maybe hear the monkeys going crazy. Alarm calling at her. There were impala alarm calling at her as well. What a stroke of luck this is. We're going past a vehicle full of people and they're not even interested in the leopard. They're just staring at the camera, absolutely gobsmacked. All right, what I'm going to do is just get around the corner here so that we can watch her coming towards us. We might get a nice view of her here, Brian. There she is. Beautiful shot of her there. What a stroke of luck this is, everybody, to see this leopard twice in one day. Doesn't happen all the time, does it? Looking very healthy indeed, I think. Hello, James Taylor. You want to know if leopards recycle their den sites or if they go back to the same den every time. James, it depends on the den, depends on whether they were disturbed there or not before. Den sites for leopards are not actually that sort of thick on the ground. There are not many of them. They're like caves. They're like very large hollowed out logs. They don't use termite mounds normally. Now, I know we saw her excavating in a termite mound and possibly thinking about using that as a... I'm going to just start the engine in case we have to move. And so, James, unlike the hyenas and wild dogs, which of course have just about every termite mound burrow at their disposal, Leopards are not really the same.
Yeah.
And here goes Karula. Right, the other leopard seems to be coming this way as well. He's coming towards the causeway, which is that kind of inlet that we walked past. I'm going to just see if she goes onto the road or not. Let's just find out. Because I'm definitely not going to go bashing through here after her. There's just too many trees and sticks and things in there. Especially if there's another leopard in the offing. But isn't that a beautiful shot of the queen? That's just lovely stuff. She's very clearly been hunting successfully. Marking territory. Pat, you're in Tampa and you want to know if Karula would have to worry about that male leopard going after her cub. Pat, yes, possibly, except that it's Tingana and so therefore most likely to be the father of any cubs that Karula has. So normally not then, if that's the case. I'm just hoping that she's going to pop out onto the road here. And especially if you're watching on the VR rig, eventually, this will be a wonderful picture to the left of the leopard over there. That's stunning. Sammy in Texas, you've made the observation that the leopard spots get bigger towards the back than they are on the front. There's pretty small ones on the back feet there. They're the biggest in the middle of the leopard. Sammy, I don't know why that should be the case, to be honest. I think it's just to probably break it up so that the spots are not particularly regular. And if they aren't regular, means she'll be more and more difficult to see. Sorry, Brian. Jackie stopped there. Now you can see in the flat light like this, there's no sun shining on her at all. She's not easy to see. She'll happily stand out, just sort of framed by the trees there as opposed to underneath them, because it will be difficult for anything to see her framed there. Right, I'm going to leave her if she goes down any further towards the drainage line there. It gets very thick. Just flicking that tail tip to tell the alarm calling birds that she means them no harm. And what we will try and do is go towards the male. So I think...
Can I join you because you're making this?
Yeah, I come right on the eastern side of the dam wall.
I'm just going to get an update on how many vehicles there are with the male. Andrew, how many vehicles there with you?
Myself, Abel's coming in. You can join as a steady mover. she's lying basically is inside of
Yeah, I think we're going to let her go now.
the dam wall. So yeah, that should be good for the remote.
Okay, copy. The female is going into the drainage line now, so I think we're going to leave her. Let's just try and get one more look, everybody. And then we'll go and see if we can find Tingana. She's still there. But we're certainly not going to follow her off-road. Let's get one last look at her there. You can see her dappled shape moving off through the bush. Wonderful. That's really happy times to see her. Let's say goodbye to her and let's go and have a look at Tingana. He's just round the corner on the eastern side of the dam wall, as you may have heard Andrew say. So, from absolutely nothing to, well, basically everything. If you see Karula, you've seen everything, as far as I'm concerned. Sorry, we're just going to quickly synchronize the VR rig. Okay, that's done. Sorry, Iggy, your question, I think, if I understood it correctly, is would a female recognize... Sorry, hang on. Oh, right. Now, Iggy, you want to know if a male would identify a cub as his own strictly by association with the mother. No, I don't believe so. I think, well, I don't know. My thought is that there must be some kind of familiarity, some kind of obviously familiar smell, but I also think that there's an element of the males thinking that offspring are theirs if they happen to have mated with the mother. So, I would say I don't know. I would say it's probably got quite a lot to do with smell, though. Just given how much or how many young cubs are killed by male leopards. So he's somewhere in here. Now apparently there is a leopard still on the dam camera. That just goes to show how improved the dam camera is. 3 months ago, you would never have seen Tingana lurking the other side of the dam, just behind the bushes here. There he is. Hello, boy. Well, it's not often that we get to see two leopards in that space of time. The two, basically, I suppose you might say I'd say the prince and the queen. I'd say the king, of course, and this is purely my opinion. I'd say the king was Mvula. Isn't he a wonderful fellow? He's quite hot, obviously. It's quite muggy. But just look at the muscle definition on his shoulders. I find that just astonishing. His dewlap, that obvious flap of skin that hangs off the front of every male leopard, except Mvula. Mvula doesn't have a very obvious dewlap at all. Just tried to take a picture with my phone, but of course he's much too far away. I might be able to circle him with Photoshop and say there was a leopard over there. You can see he's panting, his belly is quite full. I think he's probably eaten fairly recently. You can see that the spots, yeah, they're different sizes everywhere. Probably the largest in the middle, smaller towards the back and the front. And I would say that's just simply because the more irregular they are, the more camouflaged he would be in the dappled light of the riverine vegetation, just like the stuff that Karula was walking through. That is spectacular. Certainly small around the head. Yes, well, Gerda, you say maybe Karula came to give an update to Tingana on the status of his offspring. Maybe, Gerda. I think that you'll find that she was fairly unaware of him. I'm pretty sure you'll find that he was aware of her, though. Wind's starting to blow, so we're definitely catching the eastern end of whatever storm was blowing in through Hoedspruit. Beautiful. Ooh, here we go. Here we go. One chance I had at a decent picture of this leopard, and he's gone the wrong way. Where's he gone, Brian? Is he going straight across? Ooh, he's looking at a francolin and lifted his tail as it started to shout at him. He lifted his tail in that kind of surrender fashion, which means, I'm not after you. There he goes, off across the back there. Right, we'll try and turn round now. Talan, Bamban. Okay, go. Dylan, you're in Iowa and you want to know if the dewlap on the front of the leopard has any sort of biological function. Dylan, not that I'm aware of. I think it does certainly, well, okay, there probably is a function actually. In fact, there's definitely a function now that I think about it. The function, he's just going to have his afternoon constitutional. That's lovely to see. The function, Dylan, would be to protect him during fighting. Male leopards obviously fight more than females do, and so the larger the flap of skin you have underneath there, I guess the more protection you would have, the more protection his throat would have from the bites of another male leopard. And of course that's not just to him relieving himself, that is laying down a marker, as it were, that this is his patch. He's now looking across towards the waterhole there. But totally obvious now, and clearly not on the hunt. That way that he lifted up his tail like that, as soon as that Natal francolin started going at him, just to say, I'm not after you, relax, take a chill. I mercifully avoided running over the log that he left on the side of the road, because if I'd run over that, the smell assailing my nostrils right now would be utterly appalling. Oh, another one. Oh, that was a different kind. Number one that time. Isn't he lovely? You just try and get around him. He's following Karula, I'm sure. A lovely question. You want to know how a female leopard would introduce her cubs to a male. The short answer, Ramey, is that she wouldn't. She would try and avoid doing that completely. There he is in front of us. But the long answer, Ramey, is that if he came across the cubs and she was with him, then certainly she might think about introducing him, but she would normally try and avoid it. It wouldn't be a case of trying to introduce him so much as it would be a case of it just sort of happening by chance, and she would just try and protect them and probably keep him away. So it's completely unlike a situation you have with lions, for example, which are introduced. Now, this leopard is very close to us. He's only about 1.5 meters away from us. And he's smelling where Karula was marking. Exactly where Karula was marking. See? And he's showing Fleming. He's lifting up his soft palate to expose the organ of Jacobson. And that helps him interpret the urine in Karula, or the pheromones in Karula's urine. So normally it would tell him if she was ready to mate, which she really shouldn't be at this stage. It looks like he's growling. He's not at all. He's simply lifting up the tract to the vemeronasal Gibson. So Ramey, it's completely unlike. Look at his lovely eyes. The male will then kind of, he will show some affection. There, he's marking his territory. You can see the spray. Oh, it looks like he's thinking about going to have a drink. The male will normally not show any kind of affection towards the cubs, Ramey. Oops, sorry about that. And there he goes. I think he's going to go and have a drink. This is just too spectacular. Isn't it wonderful? The monkeys are alarm calling. Those monkeys are watching this leopard from 400, 300 meters away. You and I wouldn't see him from that distance. That's fantastic. All right, let's go round, pick him up the other side. He's the alarm troll. Right, here we go. Very interesting question from Ellen in Arkansas. He's now stalking something. I can't see what he's looking at. He might just be approaching the waterhole, just sort of keeping cover in case something's coming down to drink that he could eat. But Ellen, while he does that, you want to know if Karula would change her hunting patterns in accordance with the sort of risks associated with having a cub. Would she hunt smaller prey so that she would be away from the den for less time? Ellen, I don't think so. I think she'd probably kill whatever she could. But then if it was something big like an impala and it was a long way from the den, she'd just stash it in a tree and hope it was still there and go back and feed on it periodically. I don't think she would necessarily try to hunt smaller prey. I'm just going to take a chance and get to the edge here and hope that he comes to drink over here. What do you think, Brian? Do you think we're in a good position? Here he comes. Feel that wind. Well, you can't feel it, of course, but you can hear it, I'm sure, starting to blow strongly. Here he comes. Look at that. That is just the most wonderful picture. Hello, Sandy in Florida. You want to know if we've collected Tingana's scat for DNA testing. Jamie saw him sort of doing his business the other day and mentioned that we do collect the dung every so often. Sandy, oh, here we go, perfect. There we go, Brian, hey? Say I ever get you in a good position. Sandy, I think, as far as I'm aware, Tingana's dung has been long since collected, so I don't think there's any necessity for us to collect it further. Oh, that's wonderful stuff. That is just beautiful. do you think the VR can see from there? He didn't like the look of that for some reason. I suspect he doesn't like the taste of it. Ah, now Jerry's just telling me that is precisely where Karula rubbed her face when she got up from the water earlier on. So he's definitely very aware of her. This is fantastic. Now, Dylan in Iowa, a very clever question you're asking me is, do males often share the same territory as females? Dylan, they do inevitably, because a male's territory overlaps. Look, he's doing this Fleming behavior again. Because a male's territory, Dylan, overlaps a female. So normally a male will have 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 females within his own territory. They have much smaller territories. And so by default, a female will inevitably occur within a male's territory. This is just fantastic stuff. Especially 2 stars of our show like this. Going to have a drink. Now, I thought I might be slightly in the wrong position here. Brian, shall we try and move around a bit? Or are you happy here? Happy? Move. I'm just going to try and move a little bit so that we can see his face a bit better. No, with your double tap, maybe. No, let's go this way. Is that all right? No, let's go around the other side. I think with your double, yeah, I know, but I think I can't stick that thing into it. That'll be beautiful. Here you are, Brian. Isn't that stunning? Perfect. Quintessential leopard drinking shot. Paul, you're in London in a tele office. I don't know what a tele office is, but as it has the word office behind it, a tele office. I don't know what a tele office is either. Anyway, you are... Look, he's just getting a fright from the dust blowing by. Anyway, whatever kind of office you were in, it's a good idea to be watching safari. It'll keep you sane. And you want to know how many, do we know how many leopards there are in the reserve? We don't know exactly. We have a pretty good idea. So we see 2 male leopards in our particular piece, maybe 3 in our 1,500 hectares, but they're not on this area permanently. 2 or 3 females that we see, 2 young males that sometimes come onto the area. But there is a very good idea of the total number of leopards within the Sabi Sands, and including all cubs, it's probably somewhere between 75 and 100. And I know that sounds like quite a big gap, but I don't know offhand exactly who's where and how. But certainly the Panthera, for example, which does all the leopard research in this area, they would have a very good idea of how many we had. Jay, you're in Illinois, and you, oh, look at the picture of his reflection there, isn't it beautiful? You're querying why he's got that curved edge to the tail. There's actually quite a good reason for it. Well, other than not dragging it on the floor, of course. You see it's white-tipped, it's tipped with white at the end. And what that means is that it's an effective following mechanism, and it's an effective flag. So when he's a youngster, his mother will be able to spot that in the bush when they're moving together. And then when he goes out on his own, as you saw earlier, he flicked it up into the air as that Franklin started alarm calling at him, as did Karula when a number of birds started alarming at her. And that white tip to the tail is an indicator that he is posing no threat. He's not on the hunt. Please don't alarm call at me. It's a unique adaptation. I've never seen any other cat with it. I don't think that the pom-pom on the lion's tail serves anything like the same purpose. Fascinating. Now, Brian, I'm a bit worried this thing's going to turn off, so I'm going to just give it a clap. Okay, I'm going to clap everyone. I hope it's not going to disturb the leopard. There we go. I think that'll do it. I hope so, because I tell you what, that 360-degree shot of that leopard in front of the car will be something epic. Beautiful. Within this pan, of course, there are a whole lot of terrapins, and they're swimming about, hoping for the odd invertebrate to come. And that's one of them in front of his face. That little sticky outy thing that looks like a piece of mud is in fact a terrapin's head, a terrapin's beak sticking out of the water. Hello Heidi in North Carolina. You've obviously noticed how incredibly relaxed he is around the vehicles, and I think you're wondering why. And you want to know if perhaps he's grown up with vehicles in the same way that Karula has, and Shadow and many of the other leopards around the Sabi Sands. Yes, he has, completely. He does actually come from Lion Sands, which is way down in the south. So his existence here is fantastic, because it does mean that he brings some genetic diversity to the area. But yes, he's known vehicles since he was a very small fellow. You can see how much they drink. I'm always amazed by the amount that they're prepared to drink, and also the quality of the water they're prepared to drink. This is something of a cesspool full of buffalo dung, mud, hippo dung, and, well, obviously also the dung of many terrapins. And it doesn't affect their bellies at all. Beautiful picture of him there. Extremely lucky we are to spend this amount of time with him, and now we have him all to ourselves, which is even better. Fantastic stuff. Well, he's having his evening drink. I hope wherever you are in the world, you too are sitting back, inhaling deeply and appreciating this spectacular sight that we're looking at. And perhaps if it happens to be evening where you are, you have your favorite snifter with you, and you're relaxing after a tough day. If you're at the office, I hope that you have a cup of coffee with you and that you have totally foregone any kind of work that you were supposed to be doing so that you might spend some time looking at Tingana and his reflection in the dying embers of this, I think it's the 10th of February already. Isn't that wonderful? Look at how aware he is, extremely aware all the time. And Donna, you want to know if leopards might mate with related leopards. So could there be inbreeding? Donna, yes, it happens regularly. And in the cats, apparently, it can take up to sort of 6 generations before there will be any deformities. For example, I guess a cat might be born with 6 digits on its feet, for example. That would be an example of inbreeding, if you like. But for 6 generations or so, it would make almost no difference. So Mvula is from this area. I'm not exactly sure who his parents are. He's, almost 11 years old now. In fact, I think he's almost 12. And there's no question he will share some of the same genetics as Karula, but the offspring, Quarantine and Konuma, they're absolutely fine. They don't show any deleterious effects at all. But it is important, or why it's so great that Tingana is in this area and that he's been mating with Shadow, who's Karula's daughter, as well as Karula, because he does bring a great deal of genetic diversity into the area. Beautiful frame there with the log behind him. Still drinking away. He's had a lot to drink this evening, this fellow. I'm loath to put a light on him, everyone, just simply because unless we have to, I don't really want to, and we don't have too much time left. So I think if you'll bear with us, I'm just going to let him drink in peace without a light in his eyes. You're all right there, Brian, have you? If he was moving and he was thinking about going to do something around the hunt, I might. And if somebody else was coming across to look at him, then I might as well. But as he's on his own, I think I'll just let him be. Surrounded as he is by the terrapins, the wind, the smell of the dust, which smells very like a winter's evening, which obviously it isn't. Very little in the way of vegetation smell at all. So the camera is actually showing you light that is not actually here anymore. It's sucking out light from a scene that is all very dark. And as I say that, we had a question this morning while I was walking, I forget from whom it was, but about cicadas and why we're not hearing them even though it's the height of summer. And I said because there was a bit of a drought going and most of them have probably bred already and pressed on. They've had their life cycle. As I say that, there's a cicada firing up behind us. So there are still a few of them around. And it was Cindy this morning who asked us about the cicadas. So Cindy, if you're watching, there are still a couple of cicadas around. Definitely nothing like as sort of brain-shakingly loud as they were around October and November. Alrighty, let's nip over to Steph quickly so that he can show you some elephants. I'm going to stay here with Tingana. I'll see you very shortly.
And from one mammal drinking to another, and not quite as spectacular on an individual basis, but have a look at how awesome all these ellies are together. And we just wanted to show you this as the sun sets on what's been quite an epic sunset safari for myself and Andrew. I just want to say thank you. I thank you for all your questions and I thank you for all your inputs. And from myself and Andrew, at least, this is going to be the end. We're going to be sending you back to James and back to Tingana, who's busy drinking, it seems like, the whole of the dam. And I am jealous. But anyway, we'll catch you in the morning safari. Have a good evening wherever you are.
Right, well, he's still here. He's still having a drink. And as Jerry says, it looks like he's drinking the whole of the dam. It certainly does look like that. But what a privilege. So just a few more minutes left, everyone. Ruth in Costa Rica, you want to know actually how much water he's getting at a sitting like this. Ruth, I'm afraid I couldn't really tell you, to be honest. I don't know. I would say, you know, given what he's able to eat mass-wise, he's about probably 65 to 70 kilograms, maybe, 70 kilograms or so, and he can eat about up to between a quarter and a third of his body mass in one sitting. Look at that. Wonderful. I would imagine that he could drink probably a similar amount to the amount that he could eat. So probably about 5 or 6 liters. I mean, that sounds like an enormous amount. I'm just going to put a little bit of light on him just for the last few minutes. That's not a spotlight, it's quite a nice diffused side light. So Ruth, I don't know, I guess maybe a gallon in one sitting? I might be completely wrong, but maybe a gallon. Look at him, isn't he lovely? So this diffused light that we've got on the side of the vehicle is just much more friendly than a blinding spotlight. So he'll be able to sort of see past it. And as Jerry says, he looks very alert. He certainly is alert. But that's because, well, he's alert because it's so windy. And so just like the prey, you know, the impala and the antelope that are worried about being eaten in the wind, so he will be worried about being sort of set upon by hyenas or anything like that. Stunning stuff. Right, so we can just give you a slightly different angle by switching to the dam camera. And just give you a slightly different angle of him. He's definitely eaten. And of course, he's also now got hiccups. That's classic. That is hilarious. One hiccup. Brian, like you. And leopards will do a lot of drinking after they've been eating. They get very thirsty. Digestion is a thirsty process. And you can see that fat belly. Truly very quiet day until the reports of Karula coming to drink were received. Of course, you saw her twice today, which is extremely lucky for you. And then Tingana, our old pal from the south. Right, well, that's about it from us, everyone. We will see you tomorrow morning. I'm not sure who's driving tomorrow morning, actually. Thank you, Brian, for your efforts. Well done. Lovely to have Steph on board again, of course, with Brian. And, of course, Brian's thumb, at least with Andrew, Steph was. And thanks to Kirsty and, of course, to Jerry in the final control. And to all of you, wherever you are in the world, stay safe and happy. And I hope that you enjoy watching the dam cam for the rest of the night. We will see you in the morning. Bye-bye.